highlights,
insight,
reports.
updates,
This is the progress.
progress.
The Progress Report.
Hi there and welcome to Progress Report. We are here with the Minister of Human Services and Social Security, Dr. Vindhya Persaud. Doctor, thank you and welcome to this Progress Report program, and thank you for taking the time to be here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to share on what we've been doing through the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security.
Beautiful. Getting into our discussion here this morning, could you share with us on what works has the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security executed since the passage of the 2023 budget so far?
If I were to tell you everything, we would be here all day, but I will try to summarize some of what we would have been doing. Literally, we would have worked in every sphere that falls within the ambit of the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security. Our Sexual Offences and Domestic Violence Policy Unit has been really busy. We would have been doing the training for the Community Advocates Network. This is a voluntary type of network that works along with the Ministry of Human Services to identify, to report, and to support those persons who are experiencing domestic violence, and also to work with us to ensure that no one is gone unnoticed. So we equip them with all the resources. So far, we would have managed to train just over 400 of those persons since the beginning of the year. And the new family violence bill, which is envisaged as replacing the Domestic Violence Act, is moving towards its final stages, and that should be before the end of the year out on the legislative agenda. We're also looking at our 914 hotline. That's been working very well. We would have received 3,889 calls. Of those, 200 would have been specific to sexual offenses or sexual abuse, and we would have noticed that 500 of those calls came in relation to school issues. So the hotline also links to our Survivors Advocates Network, and it links to our shelters and also our safe vouchers and our legal pro bono services. For the legal pro bono services, which would be free legal services to persons who would have experienced violence, 60 persons have already benefited from the beginning of the year. And in terms of shelter, we would have been accommodating a number of persons. Close to about 30 of them would have been accommodated. I must tell you too that as part of the government's policy, we are expanding our shelters. So shelters are being repaired and constructed throughout the year. So that will be something to be looked at. We are also within the Sexual Offences and Domestic Violence Policy Unit out on various campaigns. In fact, why I started with that, this is the month dedicated to awareness on sexual offences, and we would have had a number of campaigns and activities. We started off with the Love Shouldn't Hurt campaign, and this campaign focused on having healthy relationships, setting boundaries, and knowing when to ask for help. We were all over, literally, the country, and we in Region 4, we had a special event at the Giftland Mall where we engage with the public. So the work is ongoing, and we will continue to respond to cases of sexual offences and domestic violence. Our Spotlight Initiative program would have been very much at the forefront when we had a graduation of police officers. 600 plus police officers graduated through the Cop Squad initiative, and this is our commitment when it comes to fighting domestic violence in partnership with the Guyana Police Force, the Ministry of Home Affairs, and equipping policemen with all the tools necessary to respond to reports and complain in a professional way, to understand the legislation and to deal with those persons who come to them in a manner where there is empathy and also emphasis on enforcing the law. So moving to trafficking in persons, we have already trained 2,003 persons across the country through the Trafficking in Persons unit. we would have seen 3 cases, being one in that the perpetrators were brought to justice, and of the 3 cases, 2 of the persons who experienced trafficking in persons got restitution. That's a very big deal. It was a landmark, the first one was a landmark decision, and now we're hoping more and more of these perpetrators will have to not only face the law, but those persons will have to pay restitution to those who would have suffered at their hands. And in terms of trafficking in persons, as we move into this year, we're doing so with an impressive record of Guyana maintaining its Tier 1 status. And to make sure that people are aware of what is trafficking in persons and how they could get help, our Spanish hotline is there. And we are also working on translation of a number of these messages, both on trafficking in persons and domestic violence, in various dialects, indigenous dialects, so that people can really gain help. Now, if we move to the Gender Affairs Bureau, again, we would have been doing a lot of work. We would have amplified our work on shared responsibilities and gender, ensuring in the public sector that we are making an effort to have focal points in all of the ministries and agencies who will ensure that there's gender mainstreaming in all that they do. And we would be continuing what we started in forming more men's and women's groups. We would have been working with men specifically, and that campaign will be amplified, looking at the areas of anger management, conflict resolution, empowerment, and a number of the areas where men would have specifically requested support and intervention from that unit. The Gender Affairs Bureau is also really working on the Shared Responsibilities campaign, so that men and women understand how easy it is to have shared responsibilities in the home. Going a little further now to our Child Care and Protection Agency. That agency works round the clock, and there are so many departments there. We are focusing heavily on concluding on the Hague Convention legislation, all the legislation to be completely in alignment with the Hague Convention. Those are in first draft, the remainder. So in time this year, they should go on the legislative agenda. We are hoping to resume international adoptions by mid-year, so work has begun on the central authority. That follows on the heels of the passage of the bill that has to do with international adoptions. We are really putting an appeal out there for people to adopt children and to become foster parents. Those are big pushes that we have. Lots of people would like to adopt babies and, small children, but we're saying every child deserves a loving, safe, and secure home. So reach out to us, get very much introduced to the procedure for adopting children, and we would love to see children in those safe and secure homes. Now, we have to make sure that before a child is adopted internationally in accordance with the Hague Convention, that all the avenues for local adoption would have been exhausted. I know there are people who would love to have children in their home. They want to be parents. It's just a matter of reaching out to the Child Care and Protection Agency. We're also working on the early childhood development day and night care centers. So that training will commence within a month, and this follows on the heels of the budget announcement that we are going to be constructing day and night care early childhood centers. 2 of those are earmarked, and we are in the planning stages, the design stages, and that should get on the way soon. But we have to train persons in existing institutions. So that manual, those policies, all of that is being worked on right now, and we will be rolling that out shortly. We're also following up on the heels of licensing, registration of daycare, existing daycare and night daycare facilities, to make sure they're compliant with our basic minimum standards. So significant work is happening there. On the streets, we have been working with children, picking them up off the streets. We've managed to remove over 40 of those children. We're working with the children and their parents. And this year we're going to have a zero tolerance for children on the streets. So parents, do not have your children on the streets. It's as straight as that. The legislation makes it a crime for you to not have your children, if you have them on the streets, send them out to beg and all of those things. In the last year and a half, we were really doing it with a soft touch, but this year we are looking at you, especially if you're repeat offenders and your children are on the streets. And we have found that 99% of those children have homes, have parents, and they're on the streets for one reason or another. So we want the parents to understand this is not to punish you, but this is to make you recognize you have a duty to your children, and you should be cognizant of that, and you should take full responsibility of your children being on the roads, because they now are open to pedophilia or people preying on them, or they might get into an accident. There's so many things, so many dangers out there. So please keep your children at home. With regard also to child abuse, we've had a number of reports. In fact, that is what consumes the Child Care Protection Agency. Reports have been coming from across the country. We're dealing with those as expediently as we can. And here again, we are going to continue to roll out the Every Child Safe program. And that has several components, of which parenting training is one. We will continue to train parents. We've already started the program training trainers, parents, and communities in several regions across the country. This is going to be in every region, in every community. And so whether it was Region 7, Region 8, Region 1, where we went recently, or Region 10, Region 6, this is happening all over. And that kind of momentum will continue. Our training manual was launched last year. We have the training workbook, parenting workbook for parents. That's also going to accompany that. The second leg of our storybook competition, focusing on keeping children safe, that's going to be made public in about 2 weeks. The competition has concluded. Children have written in their stories for the second edition of that book. So that's something that's going to be out there pretty soon. I did warn you, there are lots of things happening. And there is our flagship program focused on women's empowerment, the WIN program. Everyone who was at We Lift 3 said it was better, they had a better time. I'm happy with this kind of feedback, but I'm happier that we grew We Lift from year 1 to now 75. Now we had over 200 women in diverse areas, whether it was wellness, beauty, solutions, food, they were all there. We moved to a new location, and we were happy to facilitate their presence at no cost to them. This came on the heels of us training 6,000 women in 2 years. We had a graduation over the 2 days of 1,400 women. That's what happened in the first quarter of the year. We would have seen the registration of 8,000 women just for WIN, and we are seeing more women gravitating to our online programs. We also offer them in person, and so we are looking at a target of 6,000 to 8,000 being trained just in this year alone. That training has already started, and it is continuing through Coursera and started through the other online facilities. Now, the garment construction program is taking a national turn, where we are doing that in all of the regions, and we are working with women to take them to the point of income generation. We would have seen it at We Lift. Many of those who participated benefited from the WIN training, the WIN in business, business literacy type training, and we are going to be pushing very hard on the female business incubator so that more women will use that facility to have access to marketing, quality control, and many ways in which they can improve their product and their business, sustain it and grow it. And we are also going to be introducing a few other dimensions to WIN, but I will not tell you in this progress report. When you meet me again, I'll tell you about that. And I will pause here so maybe you can ask me something else, because the list is very extensive. And as you can see, it's been a busy quarter for the Ministry of Human Services. And I haven't even touched on the big ones: pension, public assistance, and permanent disability.
Right,
So
I do have them. In your response there to the first question, you would have covered at least 3 of my questions. But coming out, there was something that you mentioned, and I would like if you can give some explanation for those persons who might be listening and not understand. What do you mean by Guyana has remained tier 1 in this hemisphere?
Right. So we have been assessed and evaluated by the U.S. State Department, and when you go through that assessment, that evaluation, there are certain criteria that you must meet, and in the region we are ranked. So every country is ranked, and we would have made tier 1, which is the highest ranking in that sense. And so it involves so many different aspects, whether it's convictions, whether it's counseling, whether it's shelter. There are a number of areas that you have to fulfill.
Beautiful. And the fact that you said you work with men also, I do know a lot of persons think to themselves that Ministry of Human Services and Social Security only deal, when you talk about the domestic violence, is only for women. But I'm happy that you would have been able to explain to them
Right.
that it also focuses on men. You've listed a number of areas, and I know you still had the other areas that you mentioned after that you didn't delve deep into, as well as the app that you have.
Right. So let me give you the next level. So we have the I Matter app. This is an app that focuses on gender-based violence. This is an app that is downloaded for free, and all the resources contained within the app are free. So at the We Lift 3, there was a young woman who represented Guyana, one of 3 young women that we sent through the ministry, through government of Guyana, to the United Nations GA, the first youth forum that they had there. And they were able to give presentations coming back. She worked on and developed what you call a help bot that will complement our app. So now it's almost like you can WhatsApp through the app, creating another interface and focusing on people who have disabilities. So there's a voice automation. So that's going to add on to the iMatter app, and we've seen a number of persons using the iMatter app. We also have the Win app. Now, again, at We Live, there was an announcement, a preliminary announcement, whereas we would have seen the numbers increase on the Win app, which is a free advertising platform for women-owned businesses. We have over 800 women registered. Can you believe that? From every region. And now we're looking at how the consumer can purchase online. The women can sell online. We've started the work with MMG. So that is something in the month of May that is going to happen. And so women have another option. And I was throwing the challenge out. If you use Amazon, you know delivery is extremely important in terms of reliability, accountability, and really getting logistically where you need to go. So I was saying, why not start some delivery companies and partner with the women so some of these things can happen. So that was just one idea. So those are the 2 apps. But the big area that I have not mentioned, and I will mention, is our work with persons living with disabilities. We've done significant work from last year to this year. We have trained over 350 persons living with disability. They have been trained in a number of areas you might not think. Social media marketing, garment construction. We've used the JAWS software working with those who are blind and introduced them to IT. And in addition to that, equip them with the tablets once they've completed the program. Added to that, when I got into the ministry in 2020, one of the things that struck me was that people who lived with disability struggled to get something as basic as a wheelchair, as a walking stick. Now it is just a request. And we have managed to significantly help hundreds of people in every region, from the most remote to the easily accessible communities and regions. Every single region would have benefited from this program and continues to benefit through the difficult circumstances unit, which also works to help with in cases of funeral expenses. And it is the place where people can access help with things like Pampers. As you know, we established the Pampers Bank last year, and we would have been helping in so many different ways through the difficult circumstances unit, which is housed in the Lamaha Street office, but it is decentralized. And I say that because that never happened before. It is decentralized compared to the previous government, where 65% of the beneficiaries were from Region 4 alone. It is not like that. It is now across the entire country. There is a matrix, so it is transparent, it is accountable, and that is where we wanted to go with that. And so this unit is doing remarkable work. Through that unit, we started the iCare program. Again, significant help, especially to hinterland communities where that service is not easily there available. So we would have helped over 2,000 persons last year. This year, we are already hitting about 300-400 persons through the iCare program. What is that? We take the team into the community, they test the eyes, we go back, we give tested glasses, not reading glasses. Our focus has really been on children and the elderly and persons who are very, very, very underprivileged, or they don't have employment, or the income is very low. But that is a program that I am seeing translate into so many other things. Randomly, people will come to me and say, you don't remember me, but you gave us glasses, and look, we started a business, or look, we've done craft, or look, you know, and that's a wonderful thing for me to hear, because it is, the ripple effect is wonderful. So those are big programs coming out of that department. And from that department, we have done significant community outreaches last year. And this year we have completed 4 of those. And what is a community outreach? Simply means we take every service from the ministry, go into rural, remote, and communities, just communities across the country. We've been to a lot, and people want us to go to everyone. It's a physical impossibility, but we're working our way to it, where we take all the units. And whether it's a child issue, a domestic violence issue, a trafficking in person issue, difficult circumstances, whatever it is, the officers are right on site to deal with it. Currently, because we know people are feeling maybe they didn't get their pension book in time, they didn't get the public assistance in time, right now there is a scheduled outreach, or scheduled outreaches happening in the country, where tomorrow it's in Region 2, next, and then this week it started with Region 3, then 10, now it's 2. So we're going to clear all the backlog that exists for public assistance and pension books. Want people to go on our Facebook page, find the schedule, go there. So if you have queries, lots of times when we see the person hasn't received, many times they have not applied. So there is an application process, and you have to go through the process. And lots of people think that I am the one that signs on. No, that's not the process. It goes from the office to the local board of guardians. They have to consider a case. Then if a case is rejected, it goes to the Poor Law Commission. They will review the case again. If it's approved, then the book is prepared. So that's the process. And last year, we made some very good announcements coming out of the President's one-off cash grant for children. And now people with permanent disabilities, once they're on our system, having been placed there because of a medical report, they stay on the system until they hit the pensionable age. So those are very, very significant things we have done as a government. And for the pensioners, I want to say, you might be a bit resistant to the banking system. Don't be, because your money gets into the bank within the first 5 days of every month. You don't need a book. You don't need to line up. You don't need to renew anything. You don't even need to come and see us. The only time we need to see you is when you bring the application. We're working, and very soon you'll have the online version of everything to do with us. So you don't even need to see us coming soon. What we ask is, once the money goes into the bank, and by the way, all the money goes into the bank, there's no fee. So all of the increase given by government last year, that's in the bank. And when that goes into the bank, you can choose to use it however you want. But the only thing we ask is you call our WhatsApp number every quarter, show us your life certificate, and we know you're there. That's it. We've taken away all of the bureaucracy, all of the hard things in doing it. And with the online service coming up very soon, we will be teaching you how to use it, because we'll have demos and so on. And so, it just gets easier. But why I'm advocating for the bank, because there's still a lot of people who like the book. And, I know some of them tell me, they say, because I go one night out, they say, but we get to meet our friends. Not bad, but when it's a lot of you, it could become quite. But we have even reduced that because we have the alternate venues and they pay pension every day of the month. So everybody does not have to go on the first day of the month. Go any day of the month. That's new. So these are some of the innovations. These are some of the things. And you probably would have seen me meeting a lot of centenarians because we started the Century Club. And we are working to see how we can continue to support them in very tangible ways. Not everybody gets to 100, so I think we need to make them feel special, celebrate them. We've been doing a lot of that. We have about 100 people in the country who are 100 years old. Can you believe that? Yeah. You didn't think so. You probably thought 10, right?
Yeah.
No. So it says something about life expectancy too. Yes, it says something about that. And if we look at some of the work we would have been doing on strengthening our systems, that's also an ongoing process at the
So we
ministry.
saw under your ministry the pensions, at least for 2 years in succession, it was increased. How do you think that would have benefited the pensionable section of society?
I think the pensioners are always happy to have an increase, and it is something that government has committed to through its manifesto, and we would have seen in just 2 years government increase what the last more than what the last government would have done in 5 years. So we've seen that kind of thing, and government has made a commitment, and I have no doubt that we'll stand by that commitment to a point that was promised in the manifesto, maybe exceed, let's see. But I believe the pensioners are utilizing it because I am sure they have many ways that they have planned, whether it is groceries or whatever it is, because it is disposable income now that they have ready to use, and it's going out there into the economy. But government also gave the subvention on water to pensioners, and so that is in addition. They removed all the taxes when it came to these utilities. So the pensioner is benefiting from what government is doing, and I know that as we continue, government will continue to do more for our pensioners, because it is really giving back to those persons who would have given their best years to this country. And one of the things for old age pension, it's not means tested. It is an entitlement once you hit the age of 65. And I learned a lot because when you speak to a lot of our seniors, they say, well, I'm going into 65 and I'm going into, so I said, you have to look at your birth date. So sometimes when they start the year, they already think they're 65. And then I have to remind them, no, you have to look at the year of your birth, make sure you have hit your 65th birthday, you've celebrated your 65th birthday. Then you're eligible for pension, but it is recommended that you apply 3 to 6 weeks before that, so that we can process the paperwork, but you won't benefit from the pension until and unless you're 65 years old.
Great. I know you lightly dealt with the public assistance book, but maybe you can give us an update on the distribution of
Well, like the pension, the outreaches are focusing on clearing that backlog. So pensioners would have increased from the time we got into government to just about over 60,000. We're projecting for 73,000. That's how much it has grown. And for public assistance, we have seen a spiraling in the numbers of persons who are receiving public assistance in every single region. And what I like to emphasize is that public assistance is a temporary measure, so it's not something that you should be on for 10 and 12 years, ideally only 2. And you have the medical and economic categories of public assistance. For the medical benefits, you have to bring a medical report. That report goes with the application. Anybody could apply for public assistance. There's no barrier to anyone applying. But when that application goes to the local board of guardian, they will deliberate to see if that person qualifies. The economic also, again, is a temporary form of assistance. And what I've been really focused on is telling those who come on this way, once they're able to work and study, please get on to the government's free programs, whether it's Board of Industrial Training, whether it's the Gold Scholarship, or the GROW, or, of course, WIN. Because these are free programs, and these programs equip you with skills, education, technical vocational training, so that you can, whether you choose to work with and for yourself or you seek employment. In fact, I'll give you some stats. With the WIN program, of those persons already trained, 48% of them would have already owned their businesses. Coming out of that, 25% would have gained employment. And those are big figures. And so the whole idea with the public assistance, I don't want people to be living in a state of dependence all the time. We are providing the impetus and the wherewithal for them to move forward and to become very independent by all the training. Then you have the Small Business Bureau that will help you with the grants and the loans. And there's so many other things, like the World Food Program partnered with this ministry, and over 8,000 people benefited in 2 years. And this year, 235 of them benefited through the World Food Program. This was used for business startups, business stimulus grants. They had to show us a business plan. So it's not just giving people money. It is, they have to demonstrate what and how they are going to go into the whole arena of business. So that is why I always say, what next? And so we were able to partner with Qualfon, and now through the difficult circumstances unit at the ministry, anybody can go into the ministry, sign up there. We transfer or refer them to Qualfon. They're interviewed and they get jobs on the spot. And the thing about it, they can get trained as well. So it is looking at all the ways that exist through partnership or directly through government to create employment.
Minister, you, from the onset of this program, you mentioned a plethora of programs and services that your ministry offers. Let's zero in to the Young Influencers program. Could you tell us about the platform that program provides for young people, and maybe how they can take advantage of it, and those who have already taken advantage of it, how they're benefiting now?
So this is a program I conceptualized with a lot of thought going into it, and I wanted young people to have the exposure to government, to the internal workings of government, specifically to the Ministry of Human Services, because I wanted them to leave the program as advocates and understanding social ills issues and being able to not only identify them, but to be influencers for their peers in a positive direction. So the first year we opened registration, we had 26 young influencers. They actually worked for an award or two. And in that year we had young influencers speaking at the UN virtually because we were in the height of COVID. We had a number of them participating at various fora and making an impact and their presence felt. So public speaking was one of the things that they were taught. And then, of course, in every department, they went through a training session where they were able to familiarize themselves. They launched a TV program, of course, through the ministry called Youth Unfiltered. That will also come back on stream. And here is where they candidly spoke on youth issues, solutions, tackling things from mental health to domestic violence to bullying and all of these things on the program. They were able to go out into communities on our outreaches, interface with young people, and I think leaving the program they gained a very healthy understanding how as young people they can actually make the kind of transformation in communities or wherever they found themselves. Now this year we ended up expanding and we had 32 strong, and what I must tell you, the young people come from every region. That was a criterion, so that you had to be from every region. You had to have in registering show us what you were doing, what you felt conviction on, how you wanted to influence and things like that. So far they would have come up with projects that they wanted to do. They would have pitch some of those to the diplomatic community and other agencies to seek funding. We have already identified 3 of them who will be going on an EU-funded conference where our youth, our voice, I believe it's called. So they get the opportunities on the world stage, and from side events at the UN they can also participate. They do it virtually or in person, and like the previous batch, they have all the training rolled out for them. They have done work by coming on board at We Lift. They had a booth, they were speaking, they were doing a number of things where we focused on very key social areas. And they have also, a few of them are very, very creative. They've been a part of our Paint for Purpose and created murals focused on domestic violence and what kind of messaging they want to go out there and do. So I think the Young Influencer program is really placing that young person at the nucleus of our belief as government that we are investing in the future of our country, making sure that those persons are really geared mentally, because they understand not only the difficulties or challenges their peers face, but what are the solutions, what are the resources government is offering, how can they champion certain causes, how can they be part of creative solutions in their communities. So it's a really good experience for them. We've seen them evolve in areas like public speaking, very shy people coming out there. They have a TikTok page now. They do all of these PSAs, and they're very vocal on things I believe are important to young people.
Beautiful. Minister, lastly, can you give us an update on the progress of the Hope and Justice Center that is under construction?
So the Hope and Justice Center, the concept was born, I think, for many, many years. I wanted to do this, and here is now the opportunity to do it, where persons who are experiencing domestic violence can find all these services under one roof. And it was important to me because I saw women going up to a point, and for one reason or another, they stepped away from getting that person who was the perpetrator to face the law, or for themselves, getting help, getting support, or extricating themselves from that situation. So I thought, what if we bring everyone under one roof? Of course, Spotlight was born in 2020 in Guyana, in the sense that our government signed on to Spotlight initiative. I signed on behalf of the government, so our ministry spearheads Spotlight. And this was something that we were able to work with the technical expertise provided by the Spotlight initiative. So the actual design of the whole thing came from the ministry, the structure, and then came the whole concept of how we are going to operationalize it. That came through Spotlight. How we are going to have mobile delivery services, again through Spotlight. Then came funding, and here's where I partnered with the Attorney General. And so the Impact Justice program that he's involved in, that's the justice part of it. So Hope got engaged to justice, and so we delivered the Hope, and we will deliver the Hope and Justice Center, and there will probably be 2 this year, and then I'm looking at offshoots of that in the hinterland to have some level of that, where if you go in there, you can see from the policeman to the doctor to the counselor to the lawyer to whoever you need. And some of these will be equipped with room for people to stay temporarily until we get them to much needed help. So it's a very, very ambitious initiative, but I think it's needed. I think it's very needed in our country.
I love the way you put it. Hope got engaged in justice. So very soon we will have the marriage, and the children will be the offspring in terms of those that will get the help under one roof. And
the children would be getting people filled with that confidence to leave, just to leave. You know, it really breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart every time when I read about another case of violence, whether it's perpetrated against an elder person, a child, a woman, a man. It is just too much. And I know people are very hesitant to leave those violent situations for one reason or another, maybe because their self-esteem or their confidence would have been eroded, financially they're worrying, or they have children to support, or there's something that's making them stop before taking that step. And I want to tell them very, very plainly, just call 914. If you don't know how to do it and what to do, call 914. We will help you. From the survivor advocate to whatever our services, we will help you. People are getting help. And we do it quietly because it's such a sensitive thing. While I can speak about the services, we can't divulge details of who and all of that. We can say so many people have been helped, but it is such a sensitive thing to publicly express. I have to do it this way, but I will tell you, people are getting help. All it warrants is calling 914, or if you have the app, just tap the red panic button. And when the help bot comes on, if it is that you need to use that feature and WhatsApp, that is also going to be added. But we want you to leave. We don't want to be waking up and reading about these things, whether people are mutilated, they're violated, or worse, they're killed. Too many. And the last thing I want to say on this is that many of these persons have family members, and there's two things that bother me. Why I'm bringing this up, and people might feel, well, you're really being harsh on them, but I don't believe so. When you talk to a person who has experienced violence, their family members know. 9 out of 10, their family members know. Their neighbors know. Their friend circle would also be aware of what's happening. But people accept it on board like it is a normal occurrence. Many people. In only a few instances, families would come and tell me, because I do meet out, we tried to get this person to leave, but they kept going back. That happens too. But the support got to be consistent. Because a lot of women, when I ask them, why shelter? You don't have anyone? 9 out of 10 have family members. We need to be large-hearted. We need to have empathy. If somebody's being beaten up, if somebody's being abused, if somebody's experiencing violence, worse yet if they have children, whether man or woman, take them in. Just keep them safe. Make the reports. Let the system take over. Let the system work. No system is perfect, but the system is being improved every day. And if, a lot of people say they don't want to go to the station, a simple way to do it is call 914. That's it. You don't have to be the person who's experiencing violence. Make an anonymous report. Give us the location of the person. Give us some details so we can find them. We'll go.
Thank you very much, Minister. You did share a lot with us, and I can see and hear the works of the ministry. It's as the guys would say, only a blind man would not be able to see, but some persons say even the blind can see what and feel what.
Well, I think some people deliberately put shutters on and blinkers on their eyes, but work is happening, serious work, extensive work. And one of the things I will say about what we're doing as a government, the work is inclusive in the sense that we are in every region. Ministers are on the ground everywhere out there, and we are out in all communities. We are making sure our services are accessible to all, and that is what is critical. You can only succeed if people are able to access your services. I'm fully aware that nothing is perfect, but we have come a long way from where we were, and I will say that it is because of commitment, dedication, and the tireless energy and efforts of everybody who is on the ground working for all the people of Guyana.
Honorable Dr. Vindhya Persaud, Minister of Human Services and Social Security, thank you very much for giving us this interview, and I want to say thank you to those of you who have listened to us in your homes, at your offices, wherever you are at this time. I trust that something out of what Minister would have shared here on this program would resonate with you, and that you will take actions. Until next time, thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Highlights,
Insight.
reports.
Updates.
This is the progress.
Progress.
The Progress Report.